Hello and welcome to Our Ventura. My name is MB Hanrahan and our guest today is Myron Freedman. Myron, so not only are you the director of the Museum of Ventura County, but you're my friend as well. Thank you so much.
It's great to be here. You know, if someone had told me that crazy woman running up and down Main Street in Ventura was the MB Hanrahan I was going to meet later on, I would have been shocked.
Perfect. And here we are. So Myron, you're a relatively new director of the museum.
Yes.
What do you bring, what brought you to Ventura besides our museum, and what background do you bring to the museum?
Well, what brought me to Ventura was coming down here and just seeing what Ventura was. I had been through Ventura, like most people, a place to pass through on your way from Los Angeles, further north in California. So it was great to come down here and see the town and see the wonderful vitality that was going on. And when I finally checked into the museum, I thought, wow, this would be a lot of fun. So here I am.
And your background is in museums, or?
Yeah, I have a long history of working in museums going back 25 years.
Wow.
Not just in California, but in Chicago and St. Louis. I worked for history museums in both of those cities. Worked for the National Park Service. I was the exhibits curator for the Museum Under the Arch.
Wow.
In St. Louis. Most people don't realize there is a gigantic museum under there, but there is, and I was the curator of that museum. So I have this long history of work in the museums, but I actually started out in the theater.
Fantastic. So our museum is known for history primarily, and I'm just saying has been known for having historical exhibits, and it also has an art collection. So what's your philosophy on balancing fine art and history?
Well, I think the Museum in Ventura County, the Museum of Ventura County in Ventura, and don't forget, we have another museum in Santa Paula, the Agriculture Museum.
Yes.
I know, it's a great place. It's such a gem. Both of the museums I see as canvases, that we have an opportunity to tell stories about the history of Ventura, the history of the entire county, all of the communities, and the art exhibits are a way to highlight and introduce people to the really phenomenal and I think rather unique collection of artists we have living in Ventura County. In Ventura, in Ojai, in Santa Paula, Thousand Oaks. I mean, we have artists all over this community, and I think it's a resource and a gem that a lot of people aren't aware of, and I would love to see someday that people are coming off of that 101 specifically to come by our museum or all of the galleries and art centers in Ventura and say, yeah, let's go to Ventura, let's check it out, because my goodness, it's a happening scene.
Raising the profile as Ventura as an artist community and as and the county as an arts enclave, which it really is.
It really
is.
is.
And historical, very, very much so. So, taking on this job, what direction do you envision for the museum?
Well, I've been here not quite a year.
Right.
And when I came down here, it was really with a bit of a mandate that the museum had been collecting these materials and getting in touch with artists and becoming related to the art scene as well as the archival and historical collections area. So all of that was fantastic. But they wanted to see the galleries blossom with all of these stories, and they want to expand the museum so they can tell more stories. Well, that was really exciting to me, really exciting. I mean, that's kind of the thing I was doing before, and I thought, what a great place to come down, expand the galleries, expand the museum, so that we can be showing materials from the collections that tell both the history of the county and all of the people and the movements that happened here, but also to consistently showcase and highlight art as well. So that's my goal, is to expand those galleries so when people come down to the museum, it's a rich experience, and they feel as excited about what we have here in Ventura as you would in any other metropolitan area that's worthy of a museum like the Museum of Ventura County.
What way do you maybe you haven't even thought about this, but it's occurred to me of how the museum could become more attractive to younger artists, because as you're saying, there's so much just in the collection history, and then of course the history of the county, that it seems like young artists might find inspiration there, as opposed to just, you know, going along with their friends and going into the next hip kind of happening pop-up gallery. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but what's going to bring them almost like back to the roots?
I think working with really wonderful, connected people like yourself. It was so much fun. You know, we worked on some exhibits together, and you came in and you did some mural work for us. And I got to go to your studio and meet all the other artists that are in the community at the Bell Arts Factory and all of the wonderful enclaves of artists. I want to stay in touch with those artists. I want them to know that at the Museum of Ventura County, you know, we hope to have that kind of vitality in those galleries as well.
That they feel confident just approaching and saying, what about this idea, what about that idea?
Exactly. Yeah, we're not going to have to wait on the next exhibit of, you know, the tried and true, you know, that we're reaching out, we're showcasing up and coming, we're showcasing something that's really exciting us. You know, I recently put together an exhibit of Jeff Sanders' materials. He's not well known, but his work is incredibly connected to the modern art movement.
It's nationally known.
It is nationally known, and I want to get that word out, you know, that he's here, and it's conceptual, and I think that level of examination into that type of art is only going to raise everybody's awareness of what we're trying to do at the museum. Yes, we want to show the fine arts, we want to show the great paintings, we want to do all of that. We also want to show that we understand that here in Ventura County, we have artists like M.B. Hanrahan and Jeff Sanders, and we want people to come here knowing that kind of energy and vitality and new perspectives is going to be present in our museum.
It seems like with all the emphasis on, and you've worked in major cities, and I've lived in major cities, I know, and there's like always this emphasis of like, if you want to make it, you need to be here. And there's truth in that, I guess. Myself, what I wonder is, here you have an institution, and then I wonder, how is it that people will feel even just compelled to stay? And you know, to stay in town, to put their efforts and their art and their energy back in the town. And the same thing of like, here you've had this storied career, the attraction to moving to a relatively small but beautiful town that is a tourist attraction to kind of a town, and how to make, almost how to break the myth, like it's okay to stay and make your town great, as opposed to going where there's already an established art reputation.
Well,
can you respond to that?
I can respond to that by saying, you know, that's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I think what's going on here is every community is interested in who they are as a community. And it's a search for identity. And that identity is discovered in the various stories we tell. So we do a real disservice to the community if we're not investigating who lives here. What are the stories? We have to get beyond the history book stories. We have to really delve into the specifics of people's lives. And so in a way, that's history with a little h, you know, where we are finding stories that can't be found in the textbooks by talking to people, by looking at what they have in their collections, as it were, you know, their scrapbooks, you know, their letters. We want to understand who they're connected to and how far back that goes in the county. And we're already doing that. You know, we did a wonderful project on tortilla flats that can be found both in our archives, both in our galleries, both in the art that's being produced in the community, under a freeway overpass. This is an important story that we have to tell. And in discovering that story, we added to the stories in our collection the photographs, the oral histories, the things that went into our collection. We want to continue to do that with all of the people that have lived here in Oxnard, in Simi Valley, in Thousand Oaks, in Ojai, in Santa Paula, you name it. We want to collect those stories. So we're coming up with projects that gets us into those communities, that gets us talking to those people, those families, and find out what their history is. And in time, some of these things will end up in history books.
That is for sure. I don't want our time to run out without a little shout out to your gem in Santa Paula, the Agricultural Museum. I have to admit, my experience with it has been recent. It's a beautiful venue. It's huge. Talk a little bit about that, just so that people who maybe have not ever been there might be curious about going.
Well, the first thing you should know is that you were there. It's not some modern museum building.
No.
No, it is a preserved warehouse building that was on the railroad tracks, built in the 1880s. So this was a building that was used by the farmers bringing their seeds and everything that were being transported by rail to other points and vice versa. So it's this great old shell of a building.
It's already just a historical experience walking in the door.
It is. It's got the old floors in there. It has the old scale where they weighed their seeds before they put them on the train. It's just a great environment to be in. So in that environment, we're able to exhibit this collection of farm implements that have been gathered by dedicated, passionate, old-time people in this community that really want to see the history of agriculture preserved. At the same time, it's a great venue for talking about agriculture today, because guess what? It's a huge part of Ventura County's economy. It's part of our lifestyle, and we really want to understand what it means to Venturans to have this great industry in our area.
I mean, there's whole areas where people talk about, you know, farm to table, and they don't even live anywhere near a farm. We live near farms.
Right.
You see them.
So come to Santa Paula and look at the stories we're telling there, because they're not just historic, they're about contemporary issues. You know, whether it's, you know, the difficulties with water conservation, for example. I mean, you know, we depend on this industry and we depend on water. How do we deal with that? About the various crops that are constantly growing in this area, but they have to change over time too. Mm-hmm. Why? Because farmers have to make a living.
Yes, they do.
So it's an interesting...
And markets change.
And markets change, everything. And we've got the equipment as well, which the kids love because we've rigged it up so that they can actually touch the stuff and climb on it. So it's really a colorful, fun, interactive place to bring your whole family.
What interests me and what I noticed on a visit there was, and working there, was that it's designed in such a way where little kids can learn about things such as the endangerment of bees, the importance of monarchs, the importance of just like how seeds grow in a really playful, hands-on way, as opposed to, again, a book, which is okay, but they can literally walk from outside there and on a car drive see what they just learned about.
Well, you brought up our beehive. This is an actual beehive in the museum, so you can watch the bees at work.
They're under glass.
They're under glass, but then there's a little tube where they're able to fly in and out, you know, and do their bee thing and come back. And so families and kids and everybody can see what's happening with the hive. We actually harvest that hive several times a year. We get gallons of honey out of it. Yeah, it's amazing how productive the bees are. But it's a great place to talk about, you know, what's happening in the agricultural fields, how important bees are, and about the life cycle of insects and how important that is to the environment. So we have this very layered mission at the Agriculture Museum to talk about agriculture, to talk about issues, but also talk about science, and to talk about how much fun it is to get involved with nature.
Right, and we are as connected with that. It's not just what we shove in our mouths or what we see out the window.
Exactly.
And so that, along with the museum, which is downtown, right across the street from the Mission. If you've never been, please go. And that's all our time today. Myron, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on Our Ventura. I'm MB Hanrahan. We'll catch you again.